romanticized visions of off-the-grid living often focus on freedom, self-sufficiency, and the beauty of the untouched landscape. But what about the hardships that test both the body and mind? In this first part of our two-part episode, we're peeling back the layers of the off-the-grid reality, exploring the grueling labor of daily survival, and the struggle to haul water, and the stark isolation when medical help is miles or even days away. From the crushing startup costs of modern homesteading to the unforgivable lack of temperature control, these challenges span historical, contemporary, and post-apocalyptic context, offering rich opportunities for writers to craft authentic, high-stakes stories. Whether you're writing survival fiction, dystopian worlds, modern romance, Amish, or gritty historical tales, understanding the true cost of off-the-grid living will deepen the realism and tension in your storytelling. Welcome to Writing Rule with Allie, the Fiction Writer's Weekly inspiration station for real life and lifestyles, from historical to post-apocalyptic, helping you bring your rule stories to life. I'm Allie, and this is episode number 107. No power, no water, no plot holes. Writing off-the-grid hardships that keep readers hooked. Stick around to the end to find out all the ways things could possibly go wrong in your story. I know, this is a week and some late. We are in the middle of tornado season, and it has been lively. Don't worry, we're perfectly safe. I can't say the same thing for the tree in the middle of my pond. I'm still not looking forward to waiting out there with a chainsaw to get it. But we do what we have to. And enough about me. Let's get into this. It seems online influencers today are hyping people up to live off the grid. While there are a ton of amazing things that come with living off the grid that we will cover in future episode, there are also some cons that no one is talking about. So today, I'm going to cover many of them for you. First up, living off the grid is physically demanding task. Now, the amount of physical work will depend on what kind of off the grid you're writing. Historical stories before modern conveniences would by far be more physically demanding than a modern off the grid story. Stories that have switched to solar but still have the modern conveniences will still need to do regular inspections on the equipment and the upkeep that takes. However, most stories are either written without electricity altogether, in modern times with vehicles and such, or in apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic scenarios. And I want to take a minute to cover these. Yes, I have some episodes about unexpected workouts, but I'm assuming that not everyone has listened to them, so bear with me if you have. First, everyone needs water. This could be hauled in from the well, or hauled in from the local river or stream. Some wells can be a ways away from the home, as they are dug in the best place for water, and the home is picked to be the best and safest place for a home. A walk to the river or stream could be a few hundred feet or a few miles away. If they are lucky to have water storage areas, they can get more water on the good days to save for bad days or even sick days. Otherwise, they have to go every day, no matter what. And here in Tornado Alley, that is not a wise idea at certain times. Personally, we had a well that had a hand pump. This means that you could physically pump the water up a pipe. It was relatively close to the home. However, our well was a hand-dug well in an area where most wells were about 900 plus feet. The well often ran dry in the summer. To manage this and make sure all of the animals were watered, we would pile 55-gallon barrels in the back of a pickup truck and drive a few miles to the river and fill them. We would haul the water from the river to the barrels in 5-gallon buckets, and later from the buckets to the stock tanks. Stock tanks is where the cattle get water on a farm that doesn't have a pond or stream, and that would make sure that the animals never ran out of water. Now, 5 gallons of water weigh roughly 41.7 pounds, and we had 8 55-gallon barrels. Doing the math, we were moving just over 3,669 pounds in roughly an hour's worth of work. Other things in real life that are a workout include, but are definitely not limited to, felling trees, chopping wood, butchering animals, especially if they're large or there's a whole bunch of them, kneading bread, moving rocks, building log cabins, making shingles or even boards, digging wells, plowing a garden, tilling a garden, moving large amounts of dirt to make mound gardens, filling holes, and more. The making and moving and stacking of hay or straw, making fire breaks, especially if there's a forest fire coming, shoveling snow to get to the animals to tend to them in the winter, and so much more. Not only is this physical, but it is all on your character. Yes, okay, they could have a family to help or some employees, but if they are not in there working too, it's unlikely to get done. People in rural areas, the Amish included, don't help lazy people. You are expected to carry your weight, and if you don't, you reap the consequences of it. Now, if you're writing a modern off-the-grid story, the initial cost can be huge. There are pretty much two options: making an off-the-grid home or converting an existing home into an off-the-grid home. If I had to choose, I would build my own home and have all the new safety standards with built-in things, like water storage and a huge basement that doubles as not only a storm shelter, but a root cellar for food storage. That said, converting a modern home is most common. This can include rewiring for solar, better insulation, removing electronics, and more storage for things that your characters will need, such as easy-to-preserve food, wood stove, a place to store wood inside the home, more blankets to stay warm in the winter, games and other entertainments instead of a TV, and much more. If your character is using solar power, this is often the highest priced item, and, at least where I live, it can be several $1,000s up to six figures. Let's not forget that in modern rural areas, the internet or even cell service can be spotty at best. Yes, I have lived in several dead zones. That means nothing but a satellite phone works there. Even the emergency services had to drive 5 miles down the road to get signal to let their dispatch know what was going on. The next most expensive is having a well dug. This can be $30,000 on the cheap end. It only goes up from there. Living off the grid in modern times normally comes with some equipment. Most people have a chainsaw, many times more than one. A mower, a tractor attachments such as a plow, hay balers, tillers, and more. Other things I have seen are sawmills for making boards, cement mixers, wood chippers, backhoes, winches, and more. Now, don't think you can get away that easily. If your character doesn't have electricity, they'll have to buy alternatives, sometimes called hand tools. This includes, but is not limited to, washing tubs and agitators to wash clothes, clotheslines, clothespins, shovels, rock bars, axes, hatchets, canning jars, pressure cooker, water bath, mattock, knives, and so much more. Now, all of these things are time-consuming. Modern conveniences speed things up greatly. Not having them slows everything down. An example that I already stated, that we had to haul 8 55-gallon barrels of water in a truck to refill the stock tanks in about an hour. If I had walked to the river and back with a 5-gallon bucket, I don't think I could have filled the stock tanks even if I did this all day, every day for a week. However, if someone had solar and a well, assuming the well was not dry like ours was, they could likely use a garden hose from the well house to refill the stock tank, assuming it was close enough. All of this is to say that you need to be mindful of how long things will realistically take. This is different in different circumstances. It's also different for different people, and some people can surprise you. My favorite example is that we had a friend who was a bodybuilder and could bench press so much weight that it benched the bar before he maxed out. So, an extremely strong man. At the time, he came to help us get water. I was pregnant, so I stayed in the back of the truck to pour the water into the 55-gallon barrels, and the guys brought me the water in buckets. He lasted about 5 minutes walking the 10 feet with a bucket of water because he was not used to extended amounts of work. He was only used to short bursts of work. So keep in mind, endurance is a very underrated skill that will serve your characters well, or not if they don't have it. Another time-consuming thing is cooking. Assuming they don't have solar power, they won't have electricity to use a refrigerator, microwave, or even an oven. This means no pre-made meals, unless they took the time to cook them and can them. Bread will have to be homemade. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, plus any snacks that they might have. Then they have to clean up, because you never want food to stick to the pots, if you can help it. Or your character will be scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing. On top of that, there is no instant heat or hot water. Your character will be boiling water to cook, bathe, wash dishes, or laundry. It's easiest to boil a stock pot of water at a time, but it can take a lot of time. Let's say that they're using a water bath canner to boil the water. These are about 21 quarts of water. Now, it takes 9 minutes to boil 1 gallon of water, and 1 gallon is 4 quarts. If you math that out, it takes about 45 minutes to boil 21 quarts of water. Now imagine doing that at every single meal just to do the dishes. Wood stoves and fireplaces must be tended to if your character doesn't want the fire to go out. However, some people live alone, and let's say they go hunting. They might come back to find that there is no fire and it's as cold in the home as it is outside. They have to restart the fire and wait for the home to warm up again, which I can tell you from experience is longer than your character wants to wait when they are freezing. Now, many, if not all, of these things your character will be doing comes with physical risk. I've been with people who hit their leg with an axe because it glanced the wood and kept on going. Tractor accidents usually end up with missing body parts. Silos can be dangerous in many ways, but being buried alive in whatever crop is inside is the most common. In fact, first responders in my area train for silo rescues. I have personally burned off my eyebrows, eyelashes, and the whole front half of my hair starting a fire in the fireplace. That was fun. There is also the risk of wild animals. Being attacked by a bear or gored by a wild hog or even a cow, getting flogged by a rooster is common. But most of these eat them right afterwards because they will not stop flogging once they have started. Something to remember is that if this is history, there might not be a hospital. In modern times, most of us don't live close to a hospital. I currently live in what is considered a close place, but it would still take me a half hour to drive to the hospital, and that's if I did 60 miles per hour the whole way. If your characters are further off the grid, in the wilderness, there is not a hospital, or not without a very long wait. This is only if they have a way to let the outside world know that they even need help. Many times your character, or maybe their family, will be the doctor. Now, most people learn what to do as they grew up in history, so they might have a better idea of what to do than someone who's in an apocalypse who's never even done basic first aid for themselves. That fact alone will make doctors, nurses, dentists, and even veterinarians very valuable to society after an apocalypse. Caring for ill and elderly people can also be harder off the grid. Even with modern conveniences, it can still be challenging, especially if they need home health care. However, heat and cold are more dangerous to the elderly, and temperature control is not something people have if they don't have electricity. There are still all of the physical dangers that come with living off the grid, plus a character with a dementia will be harder to find if they wander off. Now, some elderly characters will become bedridden. Then your characters have to juggle caring for them and everything else that will need done. And this includes, but is not limited to, changing them if they have a bathroom accident, feeding them, keeping them warm or cool depending on the season, making sure they don't get bed sores, and caring for them if they form, and so much more. If your character is caring for someone who is ill and they're living without electricity, I can tell you from experience that having a fever in the summer heat is miserable, and I would not wish it on anyone. You feel like you are baking from the inside out, and any little relief is a godsend. It is hard to sleep in the heat with a fever, and your character will feel as if they are drifting in and out of consciousness. Now, after an apocalypse, if there are no medicines being made, people will still want and need medicine, and will have to make their own. This makes herbalists some of the most valuable people. Herbal healing and medical books will be highly sought after. Some common herbal healing are turning willow bark into aspirin, plantain weeds into antibiotics, and making black salve, also known as drying salve. Drying salve is used to pull out infections and for spider bites. It does not work on gangrene or rabies, but some people believe that it will. Desperate characters will do desperate things. One quick reminder before we get to all the ways things could possibly go wrong in your story. To help others find this content, pop on over to Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. Or if you're watching on YouTube, drop me a comment and say hello or ask a question. This is the best way to help others find my content. And now for everyone's favorite part. What could possibly go wrong in your story? Likely to go wrong. After the apocalypse, your character quickly learns how much physical work is needed to live off the grid. They are out of shape, and it is exhausting every single day in the beginning, making them an easy target for thieves and bullies. Also likely to go wrong. After an apocalypse, your character realizes that they no longer have access to their quick references on their phone. They don't know what to do and are forced to learn things the hard way. Possible to go wrong. Your character has a stock tank to water their cattle. However, it starts to grow algae and is no longer safe for the animals to drink. Also possible to go wrong. Your character is caring for an elderly character or a character dying of natural causes. The character loses control of their bowel movements and needs to be changed a dozen times or more per day. If they have solar, this will be a huge drain on their power and could cause a blackout. If they have no electricity, the laundry will need to be done every day, and this will take huge chunks of time and energy. This is not sustainable long term. Unlikely to go wrong. Your character sets out to live off the grid, but didn't calculate the cost first. They get halfway through building their off-the-grid dream home when they run out of money, and have to wait until they save the money for the next stage. This could stretch into years. Also unlikely to go wrong, your character chooses to walk to a stream to gather water every day. One day a storm comes up and they decide to place the water bucket outside to gather rainwater. However, the storm blows the bucket away and now they do not have a water bucket. Improbable, but still technically in the realm of possibilities. Your character is converting a modern home into a solar-powered home by rewiring it. However, they made a mistake when wiring it and caused an electrical fire that burns the house down. Also improbable, but still technically in the realm of possibilities. Your character lives off the grid in the wilderness in modern times. When their child is hurt or very ill, they have to carry them hundreds of miles to the nearest doctor for help. Thanks for listening. Until next time, happy wordsmithing!